In the beginning, there was a garden. This garden was called Eden. It was a beautiful place, filled with many kinds of trees. The trees bore fruit of every kind, and the air was soft and warm. The garden was full of life. Birds sang gently, and soft green grass stretched under a bright, peaceful sky. In this garden, there was a man named Adam. He was the first man made carefully and lovingly. Adam walked quietly among the trees. He knew the names of the animals and the plants. Every day he moved slowly, learning about the garden's soft sounds and colors. He was not alone for long. A woman named Eve came to be with him, a companion and friend, made with care too. Together they moved like a gentle breeze through the peaceful garden. Among the many trees in Eden, two were very special. One was called the Tree of Life. It stood tall and strong, its leaves full of hope, and its fruit promising a kind of everlasting life. The other was called the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. This tree was in the middle of the garden, its branches full of fruit that drew attention, but not always in a simple way. Its place in the garden was quiet but certain, a calm reminder of something important. God, the creator of everything, had given a simple instruction about this tree. Adam and Eve were free to eat fruit from any other tree in the garden, but not from this tree. It was a clear and gentle rule, given softly and with care, so they would understand. You may eat from all the trees except this one, God said, because if you eat its fruit, you will be invited into a knowledge that may be very different from what you now know. This knowledge was deep and mysterious. It was called the knowledge of good and evil. It was a kind of understanding about choices, about what might feel right or wrong, but this kind of knowing was not meant to come all at once, and its meaning was still a gentle question, not a simple answer. Still, Adam and Eve spent their days in peace. They noticed the tree of knowledge, but they did not feel the need to eat its fruit. They walked quietly beneath its branches, enjoying the soft shade it cast on the ground, feeling the slow touch of the breeze on their skin. The garden was a calm and gentle place. Everything seemed right, calm, and full of promise. One day a serpent came to the garden. This serpent was clever and quiet. It moved slowly among the trees, its voice a soft whisper, like the rustle of leaves. It spoke to Eve, asking questions that were slow and careful, as if inviting a conversation more than a command. The serpent wondered, gently, if perhaps Eve really understood what God had said about the tree. Did God really say, the serpent began softly, that you should not eat from any tree in the garden? The question was not sharp or loud. It was a soft nudge, like a quiet invitation to think deeply, to wonder a little differently than before. Eve answered calmly, we may eat fruit from the trees of the garden, but we must not eat from the tree in the middle. God said we must not touch it or we will die. Her voice was steady, peaceful, sure. But the serpent continued slowly, smoothly, you will not die. God knows that if you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The words fell gently into the quiet garden air, stirring a gentle, slow curiosity. Eve looked at the tree, this time with new eyes. The fruit appeared more tempting, its color richer than before. She reached out her hand, and with a quiet breath, took the fruit. She tasted it slowly, each bite filled with the strange mix of sweetness and unknown. The taste was new, unlike anything she had felt before. Then she gave some to Adam. He ate it too, softly, slowly. The garden seemed still as they ate their new fruit. Moments passed, and then something changed. Their eyes seemed to see differently. They noticed things they had not before, how much they were different from the garden's innocent peace. They felt an unfamiliar feeling, sometimes described as shame, and decided to cover themselves with leaves from fig trees. The soft leaves brushed gently against their skin, a small attempt to hold on to the calm they once knew. The sound of God walking in the garden came softly, like a quiet wind at evening. Adam and Eve hid among the trees, their breaths slow but uneasy. God called softly, "Where are you?" Adam replied, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." His voice carried a mixture of sadness and confusion. God spoke gently but with a quiet weight. "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam said, "The woman you gave me. She gave me the fruit, and I ate." Eve answered, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." The garden, once full of quiet peace, felt different now. The slow and soft moment was filled with a gentle sorrow that touched the hearts of all who listened. God spoke to the serpent, the woman, and the man, each with words that were both soft and serious. To the serpent, God said it would move on its belly and face a quiet struggle with the woman's offspring. To the woman, God spoke of the pains to come and the complex bond she would share with her husband. To the man, God spoke of the earth and the work it would require, the slow labor of daily life. Then, in a calm and careful way, God made garments of skin for Adam and Eve. These garments were made to cover them gently, offering warmth and protection. This act was quiet and tender, a sign of care amid the new reality they faced. God spoke again, saying that Adam and Eve should not eat from the tree of life and live forever in that changed state. So they were gently led out of the garden, a place that would remain beautiful and calm, but now closed to them. The story of the tree is slow and layered, with many quiet feelings and gentle lessons. It is not always simple. There are parts that are clear, and parts that ask us to think deeply or to wonder softly about the nature of knowledge, choice, and life itself. In the days that followed, Adam and Eve moved beyond the garden, facing a world they did not know before, learning new rhythms, slow and steady. The garden remained a place of memory, full of soft sounds and quiet winds, where the tree of knowledge still stood. It was a quiet place, full of questions without quick answers. And so the story rests here gently for now, like the peaceful breath before sleep, waiting for the next quiet moments to unfold. Outside the security of the garden walls, the air felt different. The softness of the morning, the chorus of birdsong that once greeted them, now carried a subtle edge of uncertainty. Adam and Eve walked slowly, their steps hesitant on the unfamiliar soil. The trees stretched taller than any they had known, their leaves whispering secrets in the gentle breeze. The sky stretched wide and open above, endless in its blue expanse. They caught glimpses of rivers weaving like silver ribbons between hills and valleys. Yet, beneath this beauty flickered the quiet shadow of loss. Eve looked at Adam, her eyes wide and reflective. "Do you feel it too? This heaviness inside, a sadness mingled with something new?" Adam nodded, his gaze resting on the distant horizon. "I do. It feels like the garden is a dream we can no longer return to, yet the world beyond calls us forward." They stopped by a rock, smooth and warm from the sun. The silence between them was not the silence of emptiness, but a shared understanding. A new chapter was beginning, unmarked by innocence, but filled with possibility. Day turned to evening, and they found shelter beneath a cluster of trees. The light dimmed, softening the world into hues of lavender and gold. Eve reached out, her fingers brushing a leaf, feeling its texture, as if trying to tether herself to the simplicity that once was. Adam bent down, gathering twigs for a small fire. The flame sparked gently, casting dancing shadows. The warmth was comforting, a small beacon against the growing chill of uncertainty. They spoke quietly then, voices carrying a gentle rhythm. "What will we do now?" Eve asked, her tone neither fearful nor hopeful, but searching. "We will learn," Adam replied thoughtfully. "We have knowledge now, and with it the power to shape our journey." Their conversation was a soft murmur, weaving through moments of reflection and quiet resolve. The night deepened, wrapped around them like a gentle shroud. Under the stars, they felt the pulse of life, wild and untamed, yet full of promise. The garden had been their cradle, this world was their classroom. With each sunrise they discovered more. The taste of wild fruits, the patterns in the flight of birds, the whisper of winds through unknown trees. There were struggles too, hunger carved at their bellies, and the earth resisted their touch. But with patience, they learned to bend the land, to coax plants from the soil. Their hands grew calloused, their spirits resilient. Eve found joy in weaving simple vines into baskets, while Adam fashioned tools from stone. Together, they built a small shelter, humble but steadfast. At night, wrapped in the garments woven from skins, they would lie close and recall the garden. They spoke of the tree, not with bitterness, but with understanding. "Our eyes were opened," Eve said softly, "not to fall, but to rise, to see ourselves in this world with clearer vision." Adam smiled, a tranquil expression. "We are the keepers now, not only of ourselves, but of all that grows and breathes." Seasons shifted. Rain fell, washing the land with renewal. The sun's warmth coaxed seeds to life. Animals came and went, curious and cautious. Each day was a lesson in patience and wonder. With every challenge, a deeper connection grew, between them and with the living world around them. In time, Eve found a quiet joy in tending to the small patch of ground where wildflowers grew. She watched as bees danced from petal to petal, crafting honeycombs, rich with golden sweetness. Adam, too, found solace in the rhythm of the earth. He traced the paths of rivers, studied the flight of hawks, and carved symbols upon stones, marks of memory and hope. Their voices became songs, soft melodies carried by the wind, stories woven through generations that might come long after. Though the garden lay behind them, its memory was not a chain but a gentle guide. In its absence they discovered the essence of life, not perfection but growth, not certainty but possibility. Sometimes they would pause at the edge of the wilderness, looking back toward the hidden sanctuary from which they had come. The trees stood tall, silent and watchful. The stillness there seemed to hold a quiet blessing. And within their hearts, Adam and Eve nurtured a tender gratitude for the gift of choice, of knowledge, and of each other. One evening, beneath a sky strewn with stars, Eve whispered, "Though we walk this new path, we carry the garden within us, its light, its lessons, its love." Adam took her hand softly. "Together, then, we journey forward, into the unknown, into life." Their hands entwined, they faced the horizon, a gentle promise in their gaze. The world was vast and waiting, full of stories yet to be told, songs yet to be sung. And so, with quiet strength and hearts open wide, they stepped into the unfolding dawn. As dawn spilled tender hues across the sky, Adam and Eve awoke beneath their simple shelter, woven branches and soft leaves cradling their slumber. The air carried a gentle crispness, the scent of earth and morning dew mingling with the faint warmth of last night's fire. They moved slowly, savoring the quiet companionship that had become their steadfast rhythm. Eve reached toward a cluster of wildflowers nearby, her fingers brushing delicate petals as she gathered them. Each bloom was a small miracle, the clustering blues and vibrant yellows whispering secrets of seasons past and those yet to come. She arranged the flowers carefully inside a woven basket, a quiet offering to the place that had become their new home. Adam watched her, a soft smile curving his lips. His hands, calloused from shaping stone and fashioning tools, rested on his knees as he observed the subtle patterns in the sky and the shifting shadows beneath the trees. He was learning to read the language of the world around him. The rustle of leaves, the flight of birds, the tracks left by creatures passing unseen. Together, they stepped toward the nearby brook, where clear water murmured over smooth stones. They cupped their hands, drinking slowly, the simple act feeling like a renewal, a promise handed to them by the land itself. Days lengthened into weeks, and with each passing sunrise they grew stronger, not only in body but in spirit. Adam's stone tools sharpened with patient care. His hands memorized the grain and fracture of each rock, like sacred scripture. Eve's baskets wove tighter, her fingers moving with a grace born of rhythm and intuition. Their shelter expanded, a modest refuge shaped by necessity and love, standing firm against wind and rain and the changing skies. They found companionship in shared tasks, the tending of a small garden patch where wild roots had sprouted, the gathering of nuts and berries, the careful watching of animals as they moved through the underbrush. Each discovery was a stitch woven into the fabric of their new life. In the quiet evenings, when the sky draped in amber and rose, their voices lifted softly, story and song mingling with the crackle of firelight. They spoke of the garden they had left, not in loss but as a cherished memory, a gentle light to guide their steps, rather than a shadow to darken them. Their tales became threads of hope, passed between them like a cherished gift. Curiosity bloomed within them like the flowers Eve so loved. Adam traced the shapes of birds in flight, carving symbols into wood and stone, creating a language of marks that held meaning beyond the moment. Eve studied the bees as they danced from blossom to blossom, their tireless work a testament to purpose and harmony. The rhythm of their days followed the earth's own heartbeat, the rising and falling sun, the whisper of wind through leaves, the pulse of rain as it kissed the soil. They learned to listen deeply, to move with gentle respect across the land that now cradled them. One afternoon, as light streamed through the canopy with golden slant, Eve knelt beside the wildflowers, her hands tracing petals damp with morning dew. She looked toward Adam, who sat nearby, carving a slender piece of wood. Their eyes met, and in the quiet space between them, a profound understanding bloomed, a shared gratitude for each breath, each step forward. The tree of knowledge, their once forbidden encounter, had transformed into a symbol not of loss but of awakening. It rested within them, a seed nurturing growth and wisdom. They carried it with gentleness, allowing its lessons to guide their journey without binding them in regret. Seasons shifted softly. The air cooled, leaves turned in graceful surrender to autumn, and the shelter grew to embrace their evolving needs. Eve learned to sew tunics from soft grasses and fibers, weaving warmth and protection in every stitch. Adam constructed traps and tools that eased the gathering of food, each creation a testament to patient observation and trial. They sat beneath the stars, the vast sky folding above them like a dark, infinite canvas. Their hands intertwined, they spoke not just of survival but of meaning, of stories they dreamed to tell, of songs that might carry across time to others who would walk this earth. Their voices, once hesitant, now held the soft power of certainty, not of knowing all answers, but of trusting in the discovery. Their journey was not marked by perfection, but by the tender unfolding of understanding. Through shared laughter and tears, through days of struggle and nights of rest, they built a life that honored the earth and their own transformed selves. Their love was a quiet fire, steady and warm, lighting the path ahead without consuming. As the years slipped gently onward, the garden's memory settled like soft ash, still warm, still glowing, but no longer burning. In its place grew a new forest of hope, each leaf a promise, each root a deep connection. Together, Adam and Eve embraced the mystery of the unknown, their hearts open to all that would come. And in this opening, in this soft unfolding, they found peace, not in the perfection they had sought before, but in the grace of the journey itself. Seasons passed gently, folding one into the next as Adam and Eve continued their quiet journey of becoming. The soft pulse of nature guided them, the way the sunlight spilled golden in early morning, the cool whisper of wind across the leaves, the slow dance of shadows at dusk. They learned to read these subtle signs, allowing the environment itself to teach patience and resilience. Adam's hands grew calloused but skilled from shaping stone and wood. He discovered how to fashion not only blades and points, but also delicate tools that could carve intricate patterns on bark or smooth seeds for planting. Each new design was an experiment in understanding, finding balance between strength and grace, durability and purpose. Eve, with eyes brightened by curiosity, observed the patterns woven throughout the wild. She witnessed the six-legged laborers moving tirelessly among the blossoms, watching the hive buzz with shared purpose. From these lessons, her weaving developed beyond function, blossoming into artistry. Twisting fibers into intricate knots and loops, her baskets became vessels holding both utility and beauty. The sense of rhythm in her fingers echoed the gentle heartbeat of the earth itself. Together they refined their shelter. What had begun as a simple refuge now spoke of home, a sanctuary shaped by hands that honored the land. Branches layered with leaves wove walls that held warmth and kept out the night's chill. The roof, built from overlapping palm fronds, whispered softly in the wind, inviting calm and rest. Their garden flourished too, a mosaic of carefully planted tubers, herbs, and wild greens. They discovered which blossoms attracted birds and which offered berries sweet to the tongue. Seeds came to represent promise, small miracles cradled in their palms. Eve gently coaxed sprouts from soil, her connection to the earth deepening with each tender touch. Nightfall brought its own quiet magic. Around the flickering glow of embers, their stories took shape. Stories carried on wings of memory and hope. They spoke of the tree that had changed everything, not as a wound, but as a gateway to understanding. Each tale stretched out, weaving a tapestry that tied past and future, shadow and light. Language, once broken and shy, grew steadier through Adam's carving and Eve's observations. Symbols scratched into smooth stones and etched into bark became shared bridges of meaning. Together, they turned their ideas into marks that could outlast fleeting words, preserving wisdom like seeds saved for the planting season ahead. In Eve's quiet moments, she watched flowers unfold and bees hum, marveling at the intricate dance of pollination. a reminder that even the smallest acts carry weight in the grand rhythm of life. She began to hum her own soft tunes, melodies drawn from rustling leaves and rushing water, a dialogue with the world around her. Their harmony extended beyond survival. The moments between tasks grew rich with shared smiles, gentle touches, and knowing glances. Time became less about counting hours and more about feeling the flow, sensing the steady pulse beneath all things living. Their hearts, intertwined, beat with gratitude for a path both stripped bare and full of endless possibility. With each day, the tree of knowledge no longer loomed as a barrier, but stood as a beacon, a symbol of awakening planted deeply inside them. The choice to embrace growth rather than fear echoed in their every step. Wisdom, they now understood, was not a burden but a gift. It was the quiet courage to face change, to learn and to transform. As their skills expanded, so too did their dreams. Adam fashioned traps that mirrored the cleverness of the fox. Eve crafted nets fine enough to gather delicate fruit without damage. Together they invented small water channels to carry rain from the stone basin, nurturing the garden even in drier times. Their days were marked by gentle innovation, each discovery folding into the next like petals opening at dawn. Even their clothing, stitched from soft animal hides and woven grasses, carried stories. Patterns told of the sun's journey, the flow of rivers, the strength of roots beneath the earth. Wearing these simple garments, they felt connected, both grounded and free. In these evolving layers of life, work, rest, creation, they found peace. It was not found in perfection but in acceptance, knowing that every mistake held a lesson and every effort sowed new seeds of possibility. Their journey was a slow unfolding, gentle as a leaf's descent, steady as the turning seasons. One evening, as the sky melted into hues of lavender and gold, Adam and Eve sat side by side beneath the branches of their tree. The air smelled of earth and flowers, softened by the fading warmth of the day. They shared a basket woven just that morning, filled with sweet berries and root vegetables. Eve rested her head on Adam's shoulder, feeling the quiet strength beneath her. Neither spoke much, for language was not always needed to share the fullness of the moment. The tree's broad branches swayed gently above, leaves shimmering in the last light, a living testament to all that had changed and blossomed. They knew the path ahead was still unfolding, with mysteries yet to encounter. Yet in this pause, this breath between what was and what would be, they found a deep, abiding joy. It was the joy of becoming, of learning to walk hand in hand with the unknown, trusting in the steady rhythm of growth. The tree of knowledge stood tall and serene, its roots reaching deep into the earth, its branches stretching towards endless sky. It whispered softly of cycles, of endings that fold into beginnings, of darkness that gives way to dawn. And beneath its shade, Adam and Eve rested, hearts open and ready to meet whatever came next, together. The story was far from finished, but in this gentle moment, it felt beautifully whole. In the gentle hush of morning, Adam and Eve awoke beneath the sprawling branches of the tree of knowledge, its leaves whispering softly overhead. The night's calm lingered still in the air, a tender reminder of the fragile balance between shadow and light. Together, they rose, their movements slow and deliberate, as if honoring the sacred rhythm of the world around them. Adam looked toward the horizon, where pale hues blended softly with the waking sky. Eve's fingers traced the patterns on their cloak, the familiar symbols of sun and seed and rain, each stitch a story, a prayer, a wish shared between earth and sky. They did not need words. They understood the language of presence, woven with every breath and step. They turned to the open ground nearby, where small sprouts had begun to push through the soil. The garden, once wild and untamed, thrived through their care. Water channels shimmered in the early light, their gentle trickle offering a quiet song that balanced with Eve's sweet bird calls and Adam's steady hands shaping the earth. The garden was both canvas and cradle, a living testament to their patience and love. Eve rested on a soft patch of moss, her gaze following a bee as it danced from flower to flower, a tiny miracle unfolding. She hummed, the notes low and fluid, a melody born from the hum of wings and the rustle of leaves, a song that anchored her to the moment. Adam sat beside her, his rough hands brushing seeds into neat rows, each one a silent promise of hope. They did not hurry. Time had softened in their company, its sharp edges worn smooth by shared moments and quiet understanding. The tree of knowledge stood near, no longer a source of fear but a gentle guide, a living archive inscribed with their stories and discoveries, engraved on bark and stone alike. It told of times past, and those yet to come, a reminder that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. Adam turned his gaze to Eve, his eyes shining with a warmth that words could only hint at. They spoke with smiles and unspoken gratitude, layers of meaning threading through the still air. Life unfolded gently around them, a tender embrace of growth and transformation. As the sun climbed higher, their thoughts drifted to the world beyond their small sanctuary. A wind stirred the branches, a soft breath that carried distant sounds, calls of animals, the murmur of a moving stream, the flutter of wings. The mosaic of life stretched outward, vast and unfolding, filled with mysteries waiting to be met with courage and curiosity. Adam picked up a sharpened stone, smooth from use, and began to carve new symbols on a piece of bark. Each line traced a story of seasons, of hunts, of lessons learned through trial and error. Eve joined him, her fingers gently shaping clay into small vessels, tools for gathering and sustaining the life they nurtured. Together they crafted not just objects, but meaning, an evolving language born from their intertwined hands and hearts. Their afternoons often found them beside the water, where pools mirrored the sky's slow dance of clouds. Here they reflected on the water's ebb and flow, recognizing in its movements a kind of wisdom. They experimented with dipping reeds and leaves, discovering textures and colors that painted new stories across smooth stones and bark. Creativity blossomed freely, a fluid dialogue between the world and their imaginations. Evening came quietly, folded into the cool breath of twilight. Shadows stretched and softened, weaving beneath the tree's arms like comforting threads. Adam and Eve sat close, watching the stars emerge one by one, delicate points of light threading through the indigo cloak of night. Their hearts beat in shared rhythm, the pulse of universe and earth, hope and humility. They spoke little, but felt deeply, their silence full of a profound trust. The tree of knowledge stood still and watchful, its branches cradling the night's secrets. Under its shelter, they knew they were part of something vast, a tapestry sewn with the threads of curiosity, courage, and unspoken dreams. In these moments, Adam and Eve found joy not in grand triumphs, but in small recognitions. The gentle shape of a smile, the quiet assurance of a hand held tight, the comforting cadence of breath shared beneath the vast sky. The tree no longer marked a boundary but opened a door, a soft invitation to ever deeper understanding, to lean into the unknown with open hearts. Their journey was far from over. The path ahead remained veiled in mystery, yet brighter for the journey taken together. Time moves slowly now, not as a burden, but as a precious gift, unfolding like a delicate bloom in the warm light of kindness and patience. With night's cool embrace wrapping around them, they rested, woven into the gentle pulse of the earth and sky. The tree of knowledge whispered through its leaves, a lullaby of growth and grace, promising that every moment held the potential of new dawns. The story they lived was no longer just their own, but part of something eternal, a quiet melody of life, ever unfolding, ever becoming. And in that understanding, Adam and Eve found a soft, abiding peace. As days wove seamlessly into nights, Adam and Eve found themselves drawn deeper into the quiet rhythm of the world around them. Each morning greeted them not with urgency, but with a gentle invitation, the soft breath of the wind through leaves, the subtle shift of light painting patterns on moss and stone. The familiar chorus of creatures that had become companions in this shared existence. In the stillness, time felt like something malleable, a slow unfolding rather than a march forward. The tree of knowledge, standing with grace near their small clearing, had shed its daunting shadow. Its branches no longer whispered warnings but rather hummed faintly, as if sharing secrets learned through endless seasons. It was a guide, a steady presence encouraging patience and gentle curiosity. Adam continued carefully etching into bark. Each symbol traced was a quiet prayer, a remembrance, a record of discovery and understanding. His hands moved deliberately, the rhythm of carving becoming a meditation. He found solace in the rough touch of the wood, in the way chips fell softly to the earth, vanishing into the soil that nurtured all things. Eve's fingers, too, were busy shaping and forming. The earth was pliant beneath her touch, responding as she molded clay into vessels and tools. She found joy in this creation, smoothing edges, feeling textures that spoke of strength and yet of delicate balance. These vessels held water, seeds, sometimes fragrant herbs, each one a small testament to care and intention. Together they explored the gifts of the land, stones with polished surfaces, feathers with iridescent hues, finely woven grasses, all became parts of quiet experiments. They were learning, discovering patterns and possibilities, inviting their senses to awaken to the subtlety of color, weight, sound, and scent. It was a gentle awakening of creativity that seemed to mirror the soft pulse of life itself. Near a clear pool of water, Eve and Adam often paused in reflection. The surface, smooth as glass, mirrored not just their faces, but the sky's whispering blue, the slow drift of clouds, and the gentle sway of leaves overhead. These moments strengthened their gratitude, a feeling that deepened with each passing day, rooted in the wisdom of the natural world. Evenings embraced them with soft darkness. Beneath a quilt of stars, they would sit together, shoulders touching softly, eyes lifted toward constellations that spun timeless stories. No words were needed, for the universe was speaking in quiet splendor, and their hearts listened as one. The vastness around them was filled with an unspoken promise that they were part of an unfolding mystery, and that mystery was beautiful. Their silence was far from empty. It was a space rich with trust, where vulnerability met strength. In that quietude, there was kindness, an unhurried passage of shared breath and steady presence. They exchanged glances and gentle touches that said what words could never fully capture. The harmony between them grew like a soft song, unbroken and tender. The tree of knowledge stood nearby, its leaves shimmering faintly in the moonlight. It was no longer a threshold to fear, but a gentle invitation to look beyond, to ask questions, and to embrace the unfolding wisdom that comes through wonder and patience. It whispered softly, "There is always more to learn, always more to see," and Adam and Eve welcomed this call, stepping forward without haste, hearts open to whatever would come. Their days were full of small beginnings, planting seeds in the soft earth, feeling the first stirrings of life beneath tender shoots, gathering fruit with careful hands, discovering the songs of birds and the secret lives of insects. Each act was a thread woven into a growing tapestry of knowing and becoming. There was no rush, only the unfolding of presence. In the peace of these moments, hope took root. A gentle assurance that whatever the path might be, it would be walked together, with patience to guide them, kindness to hold them, and a quiet courage that came from deep inside. The promise of new beginnings was felt in every breath, every touch of earth and sky. As the sun traced its arc and the stars carved their silent maps, Adam and Eve found again and again a place of stillness within themselves and between each other. A place where the mysteries of life could breathe and grow. A space where love in its simplest and purest form was their steady companion. And so their story continued, not with sudden revelations or dramatic turns, but in the soft unfolding of days filled with presence and gentle learning. The journey was theirs to walk, tender and unhurried, step by quiet step. In this gentle weaving of time, the tree of knowledge stood, a beacon not of fear, but of gentle light, casting its glow over a path forever open, forever new. And in that light, Adam and Eve rested, ready for what the morning might bring. In the softness of dawn, the world felt like a whispered secret. Adam and Eve moved with ease, their steps light on the earth, attuned to the subtle shifts in the air. The garden around them was a symphony of quiet sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, the gentle hum of morning life waking. Each morning offered a fresh invitation, an unspoken welcome to witness the slow unfolding of the day. They continued their quiet practices, drawn deeper into the present moment. Adam's hands brushed over the curves and grains of wood collected near the stream. The pieces were not yet shaped, but held stories, histories of growth and resilience. His touch was gentle, knowing. He did not rush, but let the forms reveal themselves, as if the wood whispered its own intentions. Eve sat nearby on a smooth stone, her fingers tracing patterns in soft clay gathered from the riverbank. She shaped small bowls, vessels intended to hold seeds, water, and light. Her touch was careful, a balance between intention and acceptance. The clay responded to her warmth, bending but not breaking, teaching patience with every gentle fold. Occasionally they exchanged glances, no words, just a shared recognition that their presence together was an act of quiet communion. Their silence spoke volumes, each pause between breaths a space brimmed with understanding. Around them the garden breathed softly, as if it too embraced the slow, steady rhythm. Birds gathered, sharing bright bursts of color in the canopy above. Leaves whispered stories of rain and wind, sun and shadow. The earth beneath their feet was alive, teeming with delicate roots and hidden life. It was a world alive not with haste, but with care. In these moments, the tree of knowledge stood without judgment, its branches high and open, its leaves shimmering with subtle light in the morning sun. No longer a symbol of fear or forbidden desire, it was simply part of the landscape, a quiet presence that invited calm reflection. Its fruits were no longer doubted but honored, reminders of growth that happened at their own pace. Adam and Eve took turns sitting by the clear pool, its surface reflecting the sky with perfect stillness. They watched as dragonflies danced just above the water, their wings like fragile glass, catching sunlight. The pool was a mirror, not only of their faces but of their evolving selves, reflections that acknowledged change, acceptance, and growth. One afternoon, as shadows lengthened, Eve shared what she had discovered while molding clay. Her vessels, though shaped with care, always responded in unexpected ways, a slight crack here, a curve that shifted there. Yet these imperfections did not diminish the beauty. Rather, they enhanced it, teaching her that creation was a dance between intention and humility. Letting go of control, she found joy in gentle acceptance. Adam listened, his eyes thoughtful. He had felt the same with wood, each grain unique, each carving a dialogue between himself and the material. He realized their work was not about mastery but about presence, a quiet witness to transformation. Their creations were less about the final object and more about the journey. They began to see that wisdom was not a destination, but a gentle, ongoing unfolding, like the garden itself, vibrant and ever-changing. Their daily tending of seeds was a meditation, an expression of faith in cycles without immediate reward. Watching the sprouts push through earth, they remembered that growth often happens beneath the surface, invisible yet vital. As days passed, they found comfort in the simple tasks, clearing a path, gathering fruit, weaving grasses into mats. These humble acts were threads weaving them closer to the world and to each other. The patience they cultivated was not forced, but blossomed naturally, filling their moments with quiet strength. In the evenings, starry skies stretched wide above, endless and soothing. Adam and Eve sat side by side, the cool air wrapping around them like a gentle shawl. Their conversations were soft and rare, but the silence shared was rich and full. The constellations traced familiar patterns, ancient and unhurried, anchoring them to a timeless rhythm. Sometimes Eve traced constellations with her finger, telling stories born from the shapes she saw. Adam listened, stories unfolding like leaves unfurling at dawn, simple narratives about balance, patience, and light. The stars offered a gentle reminder of the vastness embracing their small world, a constant companion on their quiet path. They no longer sought dramatic revelations or instantaneous change. Instead, they embraced the slow wisdom of patience, the quiet joy found in tending day by day. The tree of knowledge remained a subtle guide, its presence a steady invitation to gentle inquiry and mindful living. One morning, as soft rain began to fall, Adam and Eve took shelter under the broad leaves of a nearby tree. The rain was warm and steady, washing over the garden like a blessing. They sat close, listening to droplets pattering on leaves and soil, feeling the earth drink deeply. The moment was simple, unadorned, yet full of profound peace. Eve's hands cradled a small bowl she had finished the night before. It held rainwater, shining softly in the dim light. Adam's fingers brushed the surface, feeling the cool touch and the small waves created by the falling droplets. It was a reminder that all things, water, earth, seed, wood, were connected in an unbroken circle of life. There was no need for rushing or longing for answers. In the gentle falling rain, they found a reflection of their own unfolding. Patience was not just waiting, but dwelling fully in each passing moment, embracing the silence and uncertainty with open hearts. As the rain ceased, a soft light returned, diffused to a cloudy sky. The garden seemed freshly washed, each leaf and petal sparkling with clarity. Adam and Eve stood, hands entwined, ready to continue their journey. The path before them was unmarked but open, an invitation to walk slowly, learn deeply, and grow steadily. They understood now that the true fruit of the tree was not knowledge alone, but wisdom born of stillness, presence, and gentle curiosity. This wisdom was a quiet fire, warming from within without burning, a source of steady light, guiding them onward. With each new day, they moved forward calmly, rooted in kindness, patience, and unwavering hope. The world around them was alive with possibility, and they welcomed it with soft courage and open hearts. Together, they stepped into the unfolding days, quiet custodians of a garden that thrived not in haste, but in the tender embrace of slow and steady growth. The sun rose quietly, a pale gold light spreading softly across the garden. Adam and Eve rose with it, moving slowly, deliberately, as if the light itself invited gentleness. The renewed earth beneath their feet felt alive with possibility, each stone and leaf sparkling with tiny droplets left by the night's rain. Together they stepped toward the tree of knowledge. It stood as it always had, steady and graceful, its branches unfolding in quiet arcs like the breath of the garden itself. Adam reached out to touch its bark, smooth and cool, sensing the constant pulse of life beneath. Eve knelt nearby, tracing patterns in the moist soil where new seedlings pushed upward, fragile and bright. In this simple morning stillness, they felt the rhythm of growth, patient, persistent, non-demanding. Life, they understood more clearly now, was not hurried or forced, but welcomed through trust and care. Adam's hands lingered on the tree's trunk, and his thoughts whispered back to the wood carving he loved. How often had he sought to shape the wood with firm ambition, but now he accepted it as a gentle dialogue, a slow unveiling, the tree, rooted and present. Creation asked not for dominance, but for attentive listening. Eve's hands shaped a small, delicate basket from fresh reeds. Her movements were unhurried, thoughtful, each weave a prayer, a trust in the natural order, a willing patience to wait for fullness. She looked up at Adam, their eyes meeting with calm understanding. They had found a new language between them, rich and quiet. The garden itself seemed to pulse with this newfound harmony. Flowers nodded softly in the breeze, petals unfolding like whispered secrets. Bees drifted lazily from bloom to bloom, touched by an effortless purpose. Even the distant call of a bird seemed curiously gentle, like a lullaby for the earth. Adam and Eve walked slowly along the path, careful to avoid disturbing the tender shoots. Earlier, the rain had washed away debris, clearing tiny spaces where the garden could breathe. They accepted these small openings as invitations rather than working to impose order. A soft breeze stirred the leaves, faint and rhythmic. It was as if the garden exhaled serenity, and they found themselves breathing in sync. The balance they sought no longer felt abstract or distant, but tangible and palpable in every living thing around them. Adam paused near a particularly old tree, its roots deeply knotted in the earth. He knelt and placed his palm flat on the ground. Warmth crept from the soil to his skin. He thought of the years ahead, not ruled by impatience or frantic striving, but by a steady nurturing that honored growth in all its forms. Eve collected fallen petals and dry leaves to make soft bedding beneath a young sapling. She worked slowly, her hands steady, focusing on the task as if it were a sacred ritual. She realized the garden's endurance depended on this consistent attention, this patient offering of care. Everything grows best when given time, she said aloud, almost as if speaking to the garden. Adam smiled gently, and when we watch without pressing, simply letting be, they moved back toward the small shelter they had made. The place was humble, a woven roof of palm leaves, simple walls of clay and vine, but it reflected the slow humility they had embraced. A place to rest, to be still, to dream quietly. Inside they sat facing one another, warmth and silence filling the space between. Neither felt the need for many words. Their companionship was rooted in a shared presence that needed no adornment. Outside, the sun climbed higher, a soft brilliance warming the land. Shadow and light danced on the leaves, a gentle pulse that seemed to echo the steady beat of their steady hearts. Eve opened a small handmade book, pages made from pressed flowers and leaves, impressions of the garden trapped in delicate vessels of paper. She and Adam had started it long ago, a record not of grand achievements, but of moments caught in stillness, a new bud opening, the song of morning birds, a single drop of dew resting on a leaf. They turned the pages together, memories flowing like a quiet stream. The book held their learning, their growing devotion to the garden's natural rhythms. It was a testament to the wisdom of slow living, the patience born from humble attention. Adam reached for his small carving knife and a block of soft wood he brought inside. He began to carve slowly, one soft stroke after another. The shape emerged gently, resembling a seed pod, simple and full of promise. Eve watched, a soft smile playing on her lips. "It feels like holding the future," she said. Adam nodded. "A future we don't force, but wait to unfold." It was a future bright with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing each moment was enough. Afternoon light filtered in through the woven roof, warm and tender. The garden, just beyond the shelter, seemed to hold its breath in this shared stillness. They spoke quietly of possibilities, not in grand plans, but in small acts that rippled outward like the gentle spread of roots beneath the soil. Each kind word, each careful step, each open moment was a gift to the garden and to themselves. The day slowly approached evening, when the world softens again to pale hues and long shadows. Adam and Eve walked once more beneath the branches of the tree of knowledge, its leaves whispering secrets in the dusk. They no longer saw the tree as a source of grand answers or sudden enlightenment. Instead, it was a quiet teacher, reminding them always of balance between intention and surrender, growth and rest. Beneath the vast sky, streaked now with the first stars, Adam reached out and took Eve's hand. Neither spoke, for no words were necessary. Their hearts beat together like the pulse of the garden itself, steady, patient, full of gentle courage. Above them the stars twinkled softly, ancient and unchanging in their silent watch, and in this moment they understood the deepest truth of all, that wisdom grows quietly, like the garden, not in the roar of thunder but in the hush of light slipping through leaves. Together, they would carry this truth forward, a shared journey of soft steps and open hearts, guardians not only of the garden, but of the slow unfolding life within them. The tree of knowledge stood serene, a steadfast witness to their quiet vow, and the garden, alive with possibility, waited patiently for the days to come. Evening deepened its colors, folding shadows softly over the living contours of the garden. The gentle rustling of leaves harmonized with distant calls of night birds, a quiet lullaby, drawing the day to rest. Adam and Eve remained, still entwined beneath the gentle arms of the tree of knowledge. The night was seamless, the flickering stars their only witnesses, steady and serene. The air held a coolness that whispered of renewal, a reminder that every ending was but the start of another beginning. Eve gently pulled her hand free and reached toward the earth, feeling its cool pulse beneath her fingers. She traced the soft curve of a new sapling sprouting just beyond their feet, marveling at its tender resilience. "See how it doesn't rush," she said softly. "It trusts the time it needs." Adam smiled, a quiet warmth spreading in his chest. He knelt beside her, letting his fingertips glide along the sapling's tender leaves. "Like us," he breathed, learning to be patient with the unfolding. The night deepened further. Stars shifted imperceptibly, tracing timeless patterns, their silent journeys a mirror of life's gentle rhythm. Eve closed her eyes and listened, really listened, to the breath of the garden, the subtle hum beneath the surface. The moments stretched like a slow inhale, full of promise and quiet strength. "Everything here, the trees, the soil, us, we breathe in harmony," Adam whispered. "And that harmony grows stronger when we honor it fully." Eve nodded, reaching for the small wooden seed pod he had carved. She cupped it in her hands as if cradling a fragile secret. "This holds our hopes," she said. "Not hurried dreams, but growing dreams, soft, rooted, steady." Near them the young saplings swayed gently in the night breeze, as if affirming the promise their hands and hearts held silently. The world around murmured a softer song, one of patience, subtlety, and endless becoming. They rose slowly, their forms casting long shadows that blended with the ancient tree's limbs. Without words, their resolve deepened to nurture all that embraced this patient rhythm, within the earth, within themselves, within each other. Adam traced a slow circle in the soil near the sapling, planting a small kernel, a gift for tomorrow's garden. "We are guardians," he affirmed quietly. "Not masters, not rulers, just careful keepers." Eve watched the seed settle gently. "Yes," she agreed. "Tend with kindness, watch with wonder." They turned toward their shelter, stepping softly to preserve the sacred stillness swelled in the space. Within the woven walls, the pressed blooms in Eve's book glowed softly under the faint light of a candle made from beeswax. A tender fragrance mixed with the earthy notes of wood and earth. Adam placed the wooden seed pod beside the book. Both objects were symbols, timeless markers of their choice to embrace quiet growth rather than fleeting haste. Eve touched the pages with reverence, as if brushing the petals could echo the moment in reflection. "In these pages," she said, voice nearly a whisper, "our memories live slowly, like the garden, not pressed down but held open, tender." Adam nodded and stretched beside her on a woven mat made from bark and soft grasses. The day's work had been simple and unhurried, yet it bore a meaning far beyond mere survival. It carried the mindful heart of presence. Outside, the evening stars shone bright, a silent witness to their grateful minds and restful spirits. The warm hum of the earth beneath their shelter seemed to pulse with a steady, comforting beat as they settled into sleep. In the depths of night, the garden deepened stillness, each root set written into the quiet tapestry of time. The tree of knowledge stood tall, its limbs cradling endless stories of becoming and belonging. It did not demand answers. Instead, it offered the patient silence from which wisdom quietly blooms. As dawn painted the horizon in pastel strokes, Adam and Eve stirred with soft smiles, greeting the new day not with haste, but gentle reverence. The garden awaited, endlessly patient and open to their care. Their journey, ever unhurried, was one not of conquest, but of communion, with earth, with life, with the quiet pulse of knowing. In every moment, there was room to grow, to nurture, to simply be. And so, as sunlight filtered through the leaves and warmed the soil anew, the tree of knowledge stood as a steadfast emblem, a living invitation to walk slowly, to listen deeply, and to trust the unfolding truth that wisdom blooms in quiet time. Together they stepped forward, slow keepers of the garden, tender cultivators of a life shaped by gentle hands and patient hearts. Their story folded softly into the rhythm of the earth, a living breath of calm and enduring hope.